let's sit nice and tall and close your eyes. And take a moment to deepen your relationship with your breath. Not just watching it, feeling it like a science project, but actually noticing how the breath is moving through you, loving you, caressing all of your cells, caring for you. And as you tune to the breath, feel that the physical body begins to soften. Mind softens. Becoming aware of the space between thoughts. The space between words, which is filled with the essence of who we really are. Unconditional love. As we chant Om, imagine all of you, all parts of you turning towards that love to receive it. Take a deep breath. Keep your eyes closed. I'm going to read a meditation from the Radiant Sutras. You can receive it. There is a current of love energy that flows between the earth below and the sun above. And the central channel of your spine is the riverbed. The streaming is as delicate and powerful as the tingling touch of lovers. Entering here, radiance arches between above and below. Your whole attention resting in the subtle, vibrating in the center of the spinal column, tracing this current between earth and sun. Become magnetism relating all the worlds. The next few moments, remain here in silence. Om. The next mantra you can repeat after me. Means lead us from the unreal to the real, from the darkness to the light, from death to eternal life. Asato ma, asato ma, sat gamaya, sat gamaya, tamaso ma, tamaso ma, joytir gamaya, joytir gamaya, mrityor, mrityor, ma amritam gamaya, ma amritam gamaya. May the Lord bestow upon us the fruit of knowledge. May we have the energy and enthusiasm to realize the knowledge, and may we cherish no ill feelings towards each other. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Miracles. What is a miracle? So if you look up what a miracle is from a scientific point of view, it's something that happens that, defies the laws of science or nature or physics or the way that we perceive things to work through our physical senses and through our brain's limited understanding. But the yoga texts describe it slightly differently. And in A Course in Miracles, a miracle is described as any moment that we gain full awareness of the presence of love. So any moment when you have full awareness of the presence of love, that's a miracle. And we learn when we study yoga that love is the only thing that exists. Sometimes it's called God, the divine, or the forces, this pure love. Very different from our understanding of human love. It's not a love that you have to earn. It's not a love that comes with attachment or grasping in any way. It's this wide open, here, whatever you need, right here, complete acceptance, right? Yogi Gupta says love is the energy that holds the atoms of the apple together, the energy that holds everything together in creation. And we know from exploring yoga that we don't see things clearly. And the cause of all of our suffering is something called avidya. Avidya is ignorance, not that you aren't scholarly and know lots of stuff about the forms and things that we see in nature, but that we're ignorant of who we really are. We're ignorant of that we are love itself, that a portion of that divine love, subtler than an atom, resides in our spiritual heart, and that's who we really are, that's what exists forever. And through that, all things are possible. I want to share a little story first. I shared it, I'm going to fast forward way last night, so I'm going to share it in the lengthened version tonight and then explain a little bit more. So this story was shared by Swami Atmananda yesterday. He's a very sweet older Swami in India, very, very joyful, and tells amazing stories. And yesterday he was sharing this story with us that he knew someone long ago who had this near-death experience. And it was back when phones had, wires and things. So there was an incredible storm and this person was on the phone and lightning struck and he was hit by lightning. Okay, he was struck through the wires. He said that his boots stayed on the floor, but he was thrown up so high his head hit the ceiling. And then he was lying on the ground and he was burnt and unconscious. And his wife came in and saw him there. And she called the ambulance. And he was thrown so far that he says his awareness was thrown outside of him as if he was watching his body. So he saw his body there. He saw his body carried. So I felt like he was chasing it to the hospital. He watched it get to the hospital. He watched and heard all the doctors saying, we don't think there's anything we're going to be able to do about this. And he was in this state where he was just observing, not feeling fear or affected in any way, but just watching all of this, watching them talk. But of course, it's the hospital. They will do their best, right? We don't think we can do anything, but we'll try. And they're working and trying. And then he left for a moment, and he saw this incredible, first he had this moment where every single thing that he had done in his life was showed before him. So in a very quick way, there was a man at the ashram, Raymond Moody, who taught a lot about near-death experiences. He would come every year and share a lot of stories. And they all talked about this too, how there would be a life review where you would see very clearly all the actions that you had taken in your life and have a sense you would feel them. So the actions you took in your life that harmed others, when you were watching them, you felt it. You felt what it was like when that happened to them. And then also the actions that you had done in your life that made others feel good. When you were reviewing this review, you felt that as well. So, it's hard for us to understand because we think linear time, you'd need to live a whole life to watch this, but this very, magical way that it's all shown there, and you instantly have this impulse of how your relationship to others and the impact that you had. So we had this life review. And then he had this experience of light. He said he saw so much light, and it really was the light of absolute love. There was no sense of separation, no darkness, no craving, no worry of incompleteness. It was complete love. Even though he'd watched this review where maybe he didn't always do the most skillful things, still, after he saw this, nothing but love received him. And he could only see love in all directions. There were no judgments at all, just completely accepting. And then he heard the message, go back to your body. It's not your time. You're not going to die. So he went back again, but he was still in a state where he was observing. He was still hearing the doctors say he wasn't going to make it. And at this point, he said, love said, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. And this conviction and understanding. And then he did recover. And about a month later, he was discharged from the hospital. His life was never the same. So after having that experience, apparently before this had happened, he used to be a bit of a bully. So there were some people that he had bullied and he was very harsh to, and he had a job that forced him to be fairly aggressive. He couldn't do that work anymore. He had to change what he did, and he completely changed the way that he reacted with everyone, just because he had this glimpse, this taste of the unconditional love of who we are. And for a moment, he really was able to experience how interconnected we are. So this knowing, do we all need to be struck by lightning? Hopefully not, right? I don't think so. The other part of the story that the Swami shared is that once a key is offered, everybody can use it. So he said yesterday, as soon as one person climbed to the top of Mount Everest, then suddenly more could. And now it's so busy on Mount Everest, people going up and down, right? As soon as the key is there, then others can tap into it and they can claim it as well. So his message to us was, claim this. Remember, this is who you really are, this incredible light. And imagine, channeling it. You can imagine that you are, Dharma tells us this all the time. Imagine channeling the highest expert. Imagine channeling somebody that knows this. So around Easter is a lovely time to reflect on this, because somebody who knows this, the teacher of Jesus, right? And his most powerful lessons, the kingdom of God is within us. So this kingdom that we're looking for, the kingdom of heaven, this kingdom of peace and love is within us. That's the Atman. It's the nature of who we are, this unconditional love. It's inside of us. And the key to get there is to free yourself of judgment. Judgment is what creates the shadows. So as soon as we're in a situation, the mind instantly wants to go into judgment and decide, okay, who's the best one here? How do I measure up against them? Who should I listen to? Who should I ignore? What's beautiful? What's ugly? Right? I remember when I was in Bali, I went on this bike tour of these two older ladies from Taiwan, and we saw this, there was a gorgeous flower and there was a spider web with a really big furry spider. And I went, ugh, for a second. She said, wow, the spider, so beautiful, just as beautiful as the rose. And I was so happy I was riding my bike with her. Like, oh yes, to remember to see sameness everywhere, right? The yogi practices seeing sameness everywhere. Imagine seeing sameness everywhere until our mind and senses are purified enough that that is our natural way of being. Right? So whenever the mind comes up with these stories and says that's different, this is the world of shadows. The world we're in right now, the way we see this world, everything is actually dark here, right? Only when the sun is up, shining a little bit of light from this perspective, we see it. But everything around us here, through these senses of perception, are dark. So we want to learn, how do we illuminate this? Through right understanding, through this constant reflection. And the keys that are given to stop judging. Who is the first person to stop judging? You can point. Thanks, Laura. Yourself, right? So the most important work is to stop judging yourself. Even if we think it's not that important or powerful. Oh, yes, I judge me, but I'm nice to everyone else. Whatever we're holding here, that software, that programming is reflected outward. So remember, anything that you can't love about yourself, anything you judge about yourself, you will judge it if someone else has those same qualities. If you don't have tolerance for something in yourself, when someone else mirrors that to you, you won't have tolerance for them as well. You'll judge it, even if you try to pretend and be spiritual. Oh, yes, it's okay. I understand they're just like that. And on some level, there will be some piece that will be thinking, no, it shouldn't be like that. It should be different. They need to change. That is wrong. What needs to change? Our perspective, our perception, the way that we interact with ourselves, the way that we interact with others. So any moment when you are aware of the presence of love, when you remember that everything is light, that light is our nature, and in fact, that your physical body, this is nothing but light. There's no skin factory, there's no muscle and bone factory. These are made of atoms put together, light and vibration, by the highest intelligence. Right? And the Dharma often says, last month when I was there, he said so many days, oh, isn't this an incredible miracle that we can experience each other like this in these forms? Because in reality, we're not in these forms, right? If we didn't have our limitations, we would just see the sea of light and vibration. Then there's nothing to play with. So sometimes when people say, Dharma, what's the purpose of life? Why do we have to go through this? You don't want to exist. No guacamole, no Aquaman, no bike rides in the sunshine, no, think of all those things. Everyone else exists except you. How terrible is that? Right? So there is a certain amount of pain and suffering that every soul has to go through before we achieve realization, before we know who we really are. But once you've gone through that, and you know who you are, and you know this is just technology I have to experience and play and love, then you exist forever in many different forms, in many different shapes, many different lives. You keep coming back and back again to have different experiences, but you're free of suffering. So self-realization isn't the end of existence, it's the end of pain and suffering. Okay. That's one, for some of you who are studying, that's a small difference. When I was at Shivananda Ashram, they would teach us that after liberation, no more birth. Dharma teaches we exist forever. We've always existed. We always will exist. There's no beginning. There's no end to creation. That felt better in my heart because at the ashram, it made me feel like, oh, life is a punishment. And what birth means doesn't mean being born into a body. Birth means identifying as a body. So you can come into a body as a realized soul and not identify, no, this isn't who I am. And then it's like you weren't born at all. There's no suffering. Okay, so that's the small change I've seen from those two schools. If you're wondering about that, wait a minute, I thought when we're realized we don't come back again. You exist forever, more and more subtle, right? Because you're part of the divine. The divine exists forever. It has no beginning. It has no end. Right? So what do we do with this? Constantly do your best to reflect on what is real and what is unreal. In yoga, for something to be real, it is that which always exists. And that is love, consciousness, our true nature. What is unreal is that which doesn't always exist, that which is impermanent. So anything subject to time is part of the illusion. It exists for a short period of time because there are these veils that cause us to be able to have these experiences. But the different forms, the different shapes, all of that unreal. And try to remain unconcerned by the changes that occur through the unreal. Okay? So for example, our face, our physical body isn't real. It's the word is relatively real, right? It's relatively real. It exists for this short period of time. But when my soul leaves this body, this is going to become earth again, right? And then it'll turn into a tree. The physical body is made of food. All of this is made of food. Food came in, right, from the earth. So this is made of earth. It goes back to earth. So it's not really this, but right now it looks like this. Just like the ocean, right? The waves are not separate from the ocean. The bubbles, the foam, for a while they look like, oh yes, there are bubbles, but they just exist for a short period of time and then return to what they really are, water. Or the other example they often give in Vedanta is if you have gold, you can make the gold into many, many different shapes, but the end only gold exists. So what is real is that which always exists behind, the pure love that is behind creation. How can you know it? Bhakti. We talked about Bhakti Yoga in the Gita study for the last 6-ish weeks. Last night, we talked a lot about Bhakti Yoga, right? So celebrating the beauty of everything. Be with a tree without speaking. It will speak to you. Maybe not in words. It might have words for you too, but its essence will speak to you, right? Or the snow. Have you noticed like how sparkly the snow was, like diamonds the other day, right? In the sun. If you just stop and be with that, you see the love, you feel the love. Versus if you walk with the judgments, oh, this sucks. It's April 18th and it's still snowy and it's mucky and my boots are getting wet. Oh, the judgment. So that is what creates the shadow, which makes us feel separate from love. but in the stillness, in the space between the thoughts, in actual presence, wow, amazing. So in that quote I shared, I think I shared it on Instagram today, of Einstein's, there's two ways to see the world. One is as if everything is a miracle, and the other is as if nothing is a miracle. The quote goes the other way around. If nothing is a miracle, or if everything is a miracle. But think about that. It is a miracle that we have something to sit on right now. It's a miracle that this like thing made of rice and vegetables can talk and think and hear sounds and see things and dance and play. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. I love, pretty soon, I can already see it happening in the tree outside. You know, when everything dies in the fall, the branches are so blunt at the end. It looks like life could never come out of that branch again. And now the end of the branches are changing shapes, little bits of, something are coming out. If you look really closely, not even that closely, I can tell out there, but you start to see there's the darker kind of dead looking brown, and then a little bit of life coming out. And very soon, what looks like, how could this possibly come to life again after being under ice for a lot of months, right? After enduring so much, these beautiful leaves come out of it. It's an incredible miracle. The flowers that come out, everything, all these forms, amazing miracles. So practice, everything is just a practice. Seeing life as not a miracle is a practice. That's all. A practice that we might be very good at. Judging is a practice that we're very good at. And there are so many teachers to help us learn to judge, right? The newspaper will help us learn to judge. And, watching the news on TV will help us learn to judge and what to think and who is good and who is bad and right and wrong. But remember, not a single blade of grass grows without the will of the divine. In reality, all of nature, all the forms are moving perfectly according to the wisdom of the Creator. We can't understand from the perspective we're looking at, but we need to trust. And Dharma says a yogi stands supreme in all circumstances. Because, I am not this. I'm watching the movement of the unreal. But who I am, the light behind it. Right? Does anyone have any comments or questions? I have a niece that was just born yesterday, right? And that's crazy to me. If you really think about it, it's so amazing that a human can be born, right? How does this happen? How does this little crazy egg and sperm? I'm not asking you really, how's it happen? You don't, well, Sam, but these tiny, and amazing that it can, that little egg, and then suddenly it's all these cells and it's growing fingers, and her little ear, I saw her on Zoom today. It's all like a ribbon, much. And I'm like, oh yeah, you've had a journey. You're in a squishy little place, right? It's so incredible. And it's so incredible that turns into this, right? That it keeps getting bigger, and everything we can do is so unbelievable. But we tend to take it for granted. Any comments? I asked and then I cut you off.
I just think that it's interesting too, like what your body can endure. And it's a miracle that it can just recover and keep going, or your spirit or any of it. Like, it's fascinating that it's like these times, and then, it can just keeps going.
Yeah.
And how, connected you can be at certain points, and then you back to work, and then you're a judgy jerk again, and for a while
Yeah.
you're so like, oh, and then
Yeah. Yeah, it's natural. And then we have to be nice, kind to ourselves. I was an absolute monster on Saturday. I was doing my taxes and it was not going well. And I was frustrated. I was just a dark, heavy monster. And the most amazing thing, I was doing it on my parents' computer. My dad came in the room. He didn't say be happy or anything. He was just there, present. And then, you know, I was like, oh, and he's like, can I print that for you? I'm like, sure, right? He was basically turned into my admin assistant. He was printing things. He's like, do you want me to add that? Yes, please. He was adding numbers. He was writing things. He was like just moving, just being there, but letting me be as grouchy as I was. And I got quite worked up at one point, and he just was there. It was so nice. And then after we went to go pick up some food, and I told him, like, Dad, I really appreciate you just being present while I was a monster like that. It was so helpful. He's like, I understand. Like, there was nothing but love, right? We talk about this too, not trying to change anyone else, just being present when someone is suffering, right? And for a moment, my mom came in, and when she walked in the room, I said, I've got to, Mom, anything I say, it's not personal about you. I'm really frustrated right now. I'm feeling a little disappointed in myself. I might snap. Nothing's personal. You might not want to be in here. And then she said, oh, be happy. And then like, I will be happy when I'm happy, but I'm not happy right now. I'm frustrated and I need to be frustrated. Right? And she laughed and said, well, she warned me. And my dad said, she did warn you. Right? But that's also beautiful acceptance, right? If you can let someone just be the biggest grouch on the planet, like, okay, right, here's our little monster we raised, and then go about, right? But so that becomes, we all go through all of this stuff, but then after, not, instant forgiveness for everyone. Sometimes we need to say sorry or thank you, right? But not identifying with any of it. It's just nature moving through. We're not anything that we can see or perceive. We're not the emotions. We're not the fear, right? We can witness them. Right. So this was a sweet song. At the end of the talk yesterday, the Swami started singing, light I am, being of light I am. So I thought we could close by just singing that together a few times. I'll just start singing and then you can join in with me. I don't know the tune, so I just wrote musical notes around it, and I have a memory of what the tune might be, but we can freestyle, right? Yes. All right. So come into your heart. You can put your hand on your heart if you'd like. Bring all your attention right to the center of your heart. Unconditional love, pulsing, bubbling up there. Unconditional love and acceptance for all parts of you, all that exists. Being of light, light I am, light I am, light I am. Being of light, light I am, light I am, light I am. Being of light, light I am, light I am, light I am. Being of light, light I am. Light I am, light I am, being of light, light I am. Light I am, light I am, being of light, light I am. Light I am, light I am, being of light, light I am. Light I am, light I am, being of light, light I am. Light I am, light I am, being of light, light I am. Light I am, light I am, being of light, light I am. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. You know, I thought as we were singing that, it's important to remember to see light in everyone. If there's someone you're trying to reconcile with, don't try to do it in physical form first. Do it in your energy body first. Once your energy body is at peace with them, then the dynamic will shift. But I was thinking, oh, we could sing that about them. You know, maybe that's Ralph. Light Ralph is being of light, light Ralph is, or light you are, being of light you are, right? Just to remind ourselves, oh, don't be confused and tricked by the costume. See what's under the costume. Easier with your close family and your loved ones, right? So my parents could see what's under the costume. They weren't too tricked by the Grinch on the outside. And practicing that with everyone. In reality, everyone is our brother and our sister. They're all our family.